So, welcome to this Q1 Inside FOM. Just to be sure that everybody can hear us, can somebody in the chat in the lower corner just say that we're going through well and nicely? It should be the question. Somebody's writing, so yes, we are going through well. Okay, my name is Anders, and I'm the Digital Marketing Manager here at FOM. Some of you know that I've been here before. I'm here with our CEO, Michael Stadi. We will go through, as said, the Q1 news from FOM. If you have any questions or comments along the way, put them in the chat or questions tab, and I'll answer them or interrupt Michael and answer them as we go along. There's also a few questions from our collaborator, Stokk.io, which Michael will take when due time. They're directed towards specific segments. So, but other than that, Michael, on to you. I'll share the slides so you can see them.
Yeah, but thanks for the introduction, Anders. And as Anders said, we will have our first quarterly session here, where we go through the newsletter and providing the opportunity for any kind of investors to ask questions about everything that we have shared, and also if you have other questions. So if we start with the first story, or the first highlight, is naturally our recently published annual report. It was published on Tuesday, the 19th of March, a very nice report with strong financials. And just to dig into the highlights, well, first and foremost, the revenue, naturally, where we have increased the revenue from 2022 until 2023 by around 45%, in the range of 80 million Danish crowns. Staff cost has also increased. Remember that we increased our numbers of staff, we doubled it. From 17 when we started the year and to 32 by the end of 2023. EBITDA-wise, we are making money, we're profitable, we're creating value, we're very proud of that, and not all companies at the First North platform, but in general, SME companies is making money. For us, it was an investment year. We moved to new headquarters and hired a lot of people. So we are proud and happy that we could be value creating that year as well. And last but not least, we managed to close a deal with new stakeholders, new investors, very prominent names. We managed to get some institutional investors onto the company. With the most significant ones, ATP and BankInvest. So we have significantly increased our equity capital by more than 100%. So all in all, a year that we are very proud of, and will have the base platform for the future development of the company. As Anders said, there's a few questions that has been sent to us before we started. The question number one is that our revenue guidance for next year, so that would be this year, 2024, is wide and states that in the low end, the revenue could fall, and if I could put some comments on that. And that is correct. We had an extraordinary good year in 2023. Personally, what we are striving for in the first place is to reach the 100 million Danish crowns, and then we will take it from there. But we can say for sure that that will not happen this year. So the long trend is still that we're growing, and we want to increase the activities. But where we land this year will be depending on a lot of things. 2023 was extraordinary, and we are hoping to have yet another strong year. But whether we will surpass the revenue, we are struggling and trying to do that, but it's not any guarantee. But we have guided as we did. The other question is about the scalability of the company, and more specifically, the question has been formulated if I can explain how scalable we are and what level of revenue that we expect to get, where the income is rising faster than the cost. and I have a of 75 million, and from there on we should generate more profit than the cost. And it's just this rule of thumb that for every 2 million Danish crowns we should have 1 million in cost equivalent to a person. So if your revenue is 75 million, we should be around 30, 32, 33, 35 people, and that is sort of what we expect if it was a year where we did not want to invest heavily, which I will come back to. So we are still expecting to make profit and scale profitable in the future. Yes, let's skip to the next one. If you have browsed through the newsletter, you can see that we held our annual general meeting on the 2nd of April. That's always 2 weeks after we are publishing our annual report. It was held physically at our new headquarters, Bryggergården it's called, and I just want to stress that this is the time of year where you have an opportunity to come visit us, see our headquarters, see our machines, get a tour, and also to participate in the annual general meeting where you are allowed to ask any kind of questions. So please do that next year, and everybody is welcome if you are a registered shareholder with us. So please do that. One dominant question, and I'm sure that some of you will ask me during our session here today, one dominant question at the annual general meeting was the reflections about going to main market and taking this shift from the Nasdaq platform, Nasdaq First North, to the main market, which we have postponed and which we have said to the market, informed the market in the very beginning of 23 that was our ambition. And by the end of the year, we announced that it was postponed. And I just want to stress one more time that it's not because we have cancelled the idea, but we have decided to postpone it for several of reasons. A, we believe that we should concentrate on growing the company and become even bigger and stronger. And thereafter, we would very much like to restart the process of going to the main market. There's an enormous amount of compliance related to be on the main market. And in all fairness, with 30 people plus, we are still a relatively small company, and we need to be slightly bigger and have slightly stronger revenue stream in order to go to the main market. So just to stress one more time, we have not cancelled the idea, we have simply just postponed it. Okay. All right, but along the publishing of our annual report, we also published our very first ESG report. And we started the process back in 2022, where we, by the year change from 22 to 23, published what we called an ESG initiative. It was not a real report, but it was sort of the foundation and the skeleton, the platform for our future ESG work. And this year we have prepared and published a real ESG report that we think we are very, very proud of. Compared to the size, the ambitions are high. We believe that ESG is an element that investors will very much look into going forward, and rate a company upon both customers would support our ESG initiatives, and also we hope investors will look positively at all the work that we are doing and all the considerations we're putting into these dimensions. So this is here to stay. Browse it through. We are happy for it. A lot of initiatives, and we will continue that journey and that path going forward. We have just like a tiny, I think it's a bit funny, but it's not something that I actually had counted, but I was made aware before we sent out the newsletter this time here by Jonas Jacobsen, who's running Vækstaktier, the community, that when we changed the guidance a few weeks before we published the annual report, this was actually the 10th change and raise of guidance since we got listed and since our IPO. So we had a sort of small anniversary. I didn't count it because this is not on purpose. And the future, I just want to stress, that is very unpredictable, but it was just the fact that he was browsing through all our corporate announcement, and he could see that it was a 10th time that we had changed. So in numbers, and I just want to because I looked at the numbers, when we listed the company back in 2020, we had a revenue of 8 million Danish crowns, and now we have just published an annual report where we have surpassed 80 million. So we have 10 doubled our activity and our revenue since we got listed. So in all fairness, we think that 2023 was a very good year for us. Mm-hmm. Now to something completely different.
Yes.
We're looking at the products, we are looking at the technology, and we have developed over the last long time a very advanced machine that we have been launching a few days ago.
Yes.
The very last days of from Q1, and therefore it's here in the newsletter here. Very advanced material research machine that we now are starting to promote heavily.
Yeah, and way more on that. If you follow on the website going on, we've made small videos and so on. So yeah, absolutely something to go see.
Yeah, this is just a journey that we will continue to be in the forefront, new technologies, new products, and so forth.
Mm-hmm. You can see there's a question coming in, and then it's actually on the this topic, of course, product related. How many products do we expect to launch this year? Yeah,
that's a good question. We have mapped it and have set the roadmap for all our R&D people. That goes from mechanical engineers, automation specialists, electrical engineers, and so forth. And for 2024, we are expecting to be launching 4 new products, 4 new machines for various segments and various application fields. So that is pretty ambitious.
Absolutely.
And one launch here in Q1, and let's see when the other comes. But 4 new products for this year. So that's going to be really interesting.
Absolutely. Nice with a lot of marketing material for me too. Yes, that would be really good.
Yeah. So okay. Next theme is that the annual general meeting is the time of year where you are creating the governance of the company. That is the highest level. That is the board. The board of directors, and in our articles of associations, we have listed that we can be between 3 to 5 members on the board. This year we have decided to invite 2 new candidates onto the board. One is Birger Sørensen and the other one is Birte Tofting, as we have sent out. We believe they have competences that can support us and help us scale up the company. And just shortly, because while you send out the invitation for the AGM, annual general meeting, you need to make a list of why you believe they are competent to join the board and be on our board. And just shortly, Birger has been owner of a company and is now on the board of several companies, but used to scaling companies and also companies that have been owned by capital funds. For Birte, her specialty is branding of companies, PR marketing, and also ESG. So each one have their own sort of competences and some niche areas where they're specialists within. So we welcome both of them, and I look very much forward to work with them in the future.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Our whistleblower.
Yeah, we introduced that and published that in the very beginning of the year, that we have decided to adopt for a whistleblower scheme. So why does a small company actually do that? Well, a whistleblower scheme is because that you want to be extremely transparent, and if something happens, you should have employees and other ones closely related to the company to be able to report if they experience any kind of irregularities or illegal activities. And it's just important to stress for us that the model that we have chosen here is that none of these contacts, or if they register anything, it would not go to me or to our board. It would go to an external international law firm, and it's simply because that we would like to signal as a small company that we would slowly adapt to all the things that even larger companies have, and because that we believe that we have nothing to hide. And therefore we have decided to arrange this kind of whistleblower scheme, and any kind of inquiry would go directly to an external party that would look into if something illegal is happening. So we have done that, and yeah, I think that it's a good idea, a role model for other companies that you should consider to do the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then we go on to something also very different, to charity.
Yeah, this one is something that is deeply rooted in my heart. I have been, as a CEO, naturally reflecting and thinking of how do we stand out as a company. What can we do to attract candidates and attract people that would love to work for us? That is what you call employer branding. And what we have decided to do is that on an annual basis, we would randomly pick one out of the staff that we would offer that person, a man or woman, an opportunity to donate 5,000 people for any kind of charity, if it's sort of a legal organization in Denmark and registered as a legal organization in Denmark. The company would donate 5,000 crowns for that organization, as long as that person is employed at the company, so in theory for many, many years. So we have done that for the last couple of years, and as you can see now, we are up to 6 organizations that FOM is sponsoring on behalf of an employee. And then the image or the illustration that we have chosen here is based on this Children Cancer Foundation that they have invented this day, where you can put on your football jersey.
Yeah, football jersey Friday, or
and people that do that, they can privately donate or sponsor this organization, which I did personally because I'm one of the people in the picture, but I thought it was a good cause. It's an organization that I think that if you are able to, should support. So an element of employee branding and to get the employees feeling that they have that they're working on a company that actually is looking into charity.
Mm-hmm. Then over to the United States.
Yes, 2 stories into that one, but we are growing our US subsidiary. People that might have been following us would know that we created a subsidiary in the States. It's based in Seattle. And the big story that we published and sent out is that our founder and my partner, Martin Kinnair, will be moving there with his entire family in order to spearhead the US organization and the office there. We have already hired one person, and another one, Jim Third, is also hired just recently. So it would be an organization that is gradually ramping up over there. So Martin will have started the process, and we expect that he would be in place around August, September this year. And naturally, warm welcome to our new employees, Jim, as well.
There's a question here.
We have a question. Yes, let me have.
It's very simple.
Yeah.
Why Seattle?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and there's also a clear answer to that. US is roughly split into the West Coast, the East Coast, and the Midwest. And we have been considering Boston as well on the East Coast. Seattle was a place where we have established our first and longest strategic partner at the University of Washington, based in Seattle. We have a major showroom in cooperation with the university, and this is where we sort of started our US journey. So as this is the place we have attracted some of the first employees, this has naturally been our platform in the US from the very beginning, and also that this is where we see a lot of customers in California and north of California. So that is why we have chosen Seattle. Yeah.
I think that must cover it for that question.
Yeah.
Then on to some new staff hires, and with all the new product launches, of course, we need more hands in sales and marketing.
Yeah, we have hired salespeople and PR marketing competences, and it's clear to see that this is what we are looking for now to boost. It's sales, it's focus on sales activities and PR marketing and so forth. We don't expect to increase the staff tremendously this year. There will be a few people. We will build an organization in the US and a few positions here in Copenhagen, but we're not gonna double or anything else. Now we need to create momentum, and we have a platform now where we believe that we can scale. So the hirings and the people are very close linked to the cycle and the stage the company is in now, where we have all the basic platform, all the basic functions, and now we're looking to focus on sales and PR marketing.
I don't know if that answered the question that came in, but the question that came in, are you still hiring? And how many people do you expect to hire for the next year and in 5 years? Yeah. I think you covered the foreseeable future, but maybe the long term.
Yeah, no, we're not hiring. It's one or two special competences for the next 6 months, but nothing more than that. We have examples in the future that could happen, that people are leaving us for various reasons. We had one that decided to move abroad for several reasons, and of course that would create a gap, and then you would like to replace that. But no, not in any sort of major terms, maybe one or two. Was it more about the timeline?
Yeah, just in 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years is very difficult to say, but let's say 2-3 years, yes, for sure. We will be bigger. The curve will sort of flatten out, so it's not going like that all the time. So I would expect that that probably in 3 years' time, I believe that we could be around 50 people, but we're not talking about 100 or 200 people. So maybe a handful or two more going forward. But again, very much focused on sales, the PR marketing, and these things to boost. So yeah, growth, but at a very much more modest speed.
We won't double again.
No. Well, then we should really see something crazy, but that's not on the agenda. We have room to be 50 to 60 people at the max where we are now, and that should cover the next few years.
Yeah. Then you were, of course, allowed and welcome to ask questions as you did along the way. But if there's any final questions, then let us have them before we round off a little early today.
Yeah, and again, I just would like to emphasize and stress that any kind of questions you might have, send me an email directly. You have my email address on the website. You can also write to IR, Investor Relations @formtechnologies.com. And we are trying to respond within 24 hours all the time. So don't hesitate. Always just send us a note, and we will be happy to answer any kind of questions. And please join these sort of sessions when we are publishing our quarterly news, and we are hosting these webinars where we explain what is going on, and people can ask questions.
And speaking of questions, we have two similar questions coming in from two different here. Which segments, applications will drive the growth? That's the first question. The other question, where do you see the biggest market going forward? Pharma, fuel cells, batteries, etc.
Yeah, good questions. We'll start with the first one about that was the applications, right?
Segments and applications, yeah.
Segments, yeah. Historically and strategically, we're looking at what we call energy harvesting and energy storage. And energy harvesting is a more sort of general word for the solar industry. That is still one of the areas that we are focused on a lot. Energy storage is batteries, is fuel cells, is all other application fields that are relating to energy storage. That is also the other segment that we are looking into. We are trying a few new areas because the customers are coming to us. We have inquiries on the medtech segment, medical technical things, and is close at selling machines related to that segment. And we also, with the new product that we've just been launching,
I was just about to say,
looking at a completely new segment, but it's all related to material science and highly advanced material science. But energy storage and energy harvesting is still sort of the main, and then there will be new ones that are smaller but still interesting to follow. I call them bubbles, you know. Yeah. And the other question was just the markets.
What is the biggest market going forward?
Yeah, and I can answer that super sharply. We are standing on 3 pillars. That is US, North America, so US and Canada on one. Then it's Europe, and then it's Asia. And right now we see the biggest growth in US. Therefore, also the decision for Martin, my partner, to go there, and also the hiring of Holly and Jim, because we see a big potential in the US market.
And if we go a little step deeper and look into the application area, which one is the biggest, if we can do that? As we see it.
Solar, batteries, and fuel cells is what we are focusing on.
Yeah. Then a new question here. Are your customers and prospects in the enterprise category, or are you selling to smaller companies?
Yeah. It's we started off in the very beginning when FOM was founded, focusing on the academic customers. Yeah. Academia is universities and research institutions, and gradually we have been moving towards also the corporates. In 2023, we have sort of had an equal split between academic customers and corporates. If we double click on the corporate segment, it's sort of 2 types of customers. That is the startup companies that have received major funding and therefore need to get going. So that is sort of small companies, but with heavily funded. And then you have the big corporates that have the size where they have their own laboratories using their own R&D teams. So really big companies and really small companies that are heavily funded. That is sort of the 2 categories within the corporate / the enterprise category.
Certainly. We're almost getting close to deadline. I was about to say, but time. Yeah. Any last questions? And if we don't cover them, then as Michael said a few minutes ago, please send an email to us anytime. We'll answer them.
Yes.
Yeah. So with that, I think we'll cut off now. Okay. Say thank you for joining us tonight.
Take care.
Bye.